Okay, so on the previous video and the last slide, we discussed some of the different ways that corporations can get involved, and one of those ways was housing. So this slide just goes a little bit deeper in that discussion that we had about housing, some more examples from the chapter about some of the ways that corporations can help fund and support organizations that help improve the housing availability in their communities. Okay, other things is aid to minority women, disabled, veteran-owned enterprises. Businesses can often support funding, help do find different ways to work with these groups. Large corporations really look at like supplier diversity programs that will seek out partnerships. There are also some things that sometimes they, look for. If there's a lot of suppliers available, they might try to find women-owned businesses specifically. Or one example would be Target partnership with minority-owned small businesses to help them scale up their sales. So they created a partnership where they would supply stores with products that were owned by minority business owners. And this was a very successful program for both Target and the small business owners that were benefiting from the extra exposure to their products. Target ended this program in January of this year, shortly after Trump became president and pushed to decrease DEI initiatives. Now, this has actually had a negative impact on Target, as them ending this program, there were large outcries for boycotts, and Target has been losing income steadily and has seen decreased sales and decreased traffic in stores since the beginning of the year. They're now laying off workers and talking about how to kind of restore some of those relationships with customers that were lost when they ended this program. So regardless of any political beliefs, that's just one reality from a corporation kind of taking a political stance after it had a program that was supporting minority-owned businesses, and kind of what the community interaction then. And this is something that would also be talked about in chapter 19 when we talk about reputation management. So many people feel that Target ruined their reputation by doing this. Okay, disaster, terrorism, and war relief. So some of the examples that I've given different relief kind of efforts, especially during national disasters, how corporations can support and help even finance that. They can donate goods and services. They can donate money. They can have philanthropic interests, which are like they might have a foundation that has specific things. One example, sometimes this is called strategic philanthropy, which we'll talk about in an upcoming slide, I'm sure. But this covers when the actual benefit that they're providing to the community also benefits the business. So I linked an example of this with Nestle in the course readings for this week. It's a really short one page of a website reading. But what this is talking about is how Nestle is helping financially support and even through research and strategy and education, support the regrowth of forests in Cote d'Ivoire, which is also called the Ivory Coast. One of the benefits of this is that it helps kind of restore the chocolate industry there. So that Ivory Coast is one of the main producers of chocolate. It's one of the best areas environmentally for the growth of chocolate. However, deforestation and other global climate change issues have caused issues with the growth there. And so by Nestle financially supporting this community and helping them plant trees and helping them restore forests, that's actually benefiting them in the long run because it's helping to save the cocoa industry and cocoa plants, which are kind of struggling right now with the deforestation and climate change issues. We will talk about the chocolate industry more when we get to special topics in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so corporate giving, so corporate philanthropy is a term for giving and donating. Of course, the examples given in the book is that the U.S. corporations tend to give much more than non-U.S. corporations. Some of this is about because of the tax benefit of corporate giving. So corporations are allowed to give up to 10% of their profits in order to reduce their tax bill. So this is a benefit that a lot of other countries don't provide, which incentivizes corporate giving. Okay, as this slide talks about those tax rules, and that's one of the benefits that that's one of the reasons why U.S. companies tend to give more than others. Okay, different forms of corporate giving. We've talked about these actually in a couple of the different slides also. So they can give money, they can give products and services. So we've talked a little bit about gifting of products, such as like giving water to the people of Des Moines when they were without water. Donating services. One of the ways that we can donate service is in volunteering employee time, so gifts of time. And one of the ways that we have is what's called skills-based volunteerism, which employee skills are matched to specialized needs. So for example, we might have like a booster club, which has dedicated, for an example here, I'm an accountant by trade. And when my kids were in school, the Parents Association of the school was registered as a nonprofit entity. But to maintain that nonprofit entity status and be able to fundraise and stuff, there were different governmental forms, including tax forms, that they had to do every single year. So as an accountant, I volunteered and helped them do those funds. So often that happens where they might ask for someone with a specialized service. Companies might also provide financial advice or different things like that so giving skills-based, maybe teaching a finance class if you're a finance company to the public about how people can save for retirement, for example. Various different ways that we can provide to the community or give back to the community. It doesn't just have to be money. Okay, so this strategic philanthropy that I talked about, and I gave that example of Nestle. Multiple different ways that companies can do this, but it's really in when they're giving to a community and bolstering a community, and it's actually for their own personal benefit. Another example that I can think of is that Walmart. When I used to teach in Cheyenne, Wyoming, Walmart had a massive warehouse there, and they had a lot of local people who worked there. Many of their local employees came in straight out of high school and had no college experience. Well, the Walmart warehouse had a condition that for supervisory or manager positions, you had to have college, a certain amount of college training or some kind of college degree. And so what Walmart did is they created a strategic partnership with the local college to create a supply chain management program that would train their employees and give them the skills that they needed in order to help with their employee pipeline and to get them more employees with college degrees. So different ways that they're giving back to the community, they're gifting money to an education entity, but in the long run, it's to benefit their own organization. Okay. Companies also look at what is the return on this social investment. So what is the benefit of working with the community, giving to our community, our reputation management, which is going to be covered in the next chapter. But how do we measure that? How do we measure that people have a fond belief system about our company because of the different things that we do, and so they're more likely to purchase from us and more likely to talk positively about us. News media might celebrate us and our efforts. Of course, it is difficult to measure how successful they can be with those things. Okay, it's much easier to get return on investment. I bought a new building and then this is the amount of money that I profited from it than it is to say, what does my reputation management or my community giving do for my bottom line? It's difficult to measure and quantify that. Okay, but there is evidence that shows that companies with positive reputations, companies with good community relationships do have higher profits than companies with reputation issues or companies who don't have a good relationship with their community. So even though that might be difficult to measure, there is a large amount of proof that there is success from providing social investment to the community. Okay. Different ways that we might measure this is trying to quantify the impacts of any activity that we do. Okay, so we'll continue in the next video.